Hi 5P, we're going to continue the next math lesson. This is section 6, dividing decimals by tens, hundreds, and thousands. So 2 lessons ago we learned to multiply by 10, 100, and 1,000. Then we learned how to divide decimals, but now we're learning to divide decimals by tens, hundreds, and thousands. I can divide decimals up to 3 decimal places by 10, 100, or 1,000. I can divide decimals up to 3 decimal places by powers of 10. Okay, so we're going to start with this simple one. If I have 1 divided by 10, I'll end up with a tenth. 1 divided by 10, I'll end up with 1/10, with 1 dime. So if you look over here, 1 divided by 10 equals a tenth, a dime. $1 divided by 10 is a tenth. If I have a tenth divided by 10, I'll end up with a hundredth, a penny. If I have a hundredth divided by a 10, I'll end up with a thousandth, right? If I take a penny and break it up 10 times, I'll end up with a thousandth. Okay, it's very important for you to stay with me and follow along, because it definitely becomes more complicated than this, and I really want to make sure you guys can do this independently. Okay, so what if I'm dividing 50.1 divided by 10? So I'm dividing the 50 by 10, which becomes 5. And that means that the 1/10 also becomes divided by 10. So it becomes 100th. So the 50 divided by 10 becomes 5, and the 1/10 divided by 10 becomes 100th. So my new answer is 5.01. What if I was to divide 2.35 divided by 10? So if you think back to what this would look like if I was multiplying 2.35 times 10, I know that 2 times 10 would become 20, right? Everything would become 10 times bigger. So this is the opposite. Everything's going to become divided by 10, right? It'll become smaller. So the decimal place will be moving over to the other, to this side of the 2. So I'm going to show you. So if I have 2.35 divided by 10, it becomes 10 times smaller. So it's 0.235. So I'm going to show you that on my board. If I have 2.35 divided by 10, let's think back. 2.35 times 10 would mean that this would become bigger. It would become 23.5. But we're now dividing by 10. We're making it smaller. So it becomes 0.235 is our new answer. Okay? Very important. Simple, but very important. There's our answer, which I just explained to you. How can you use 8 divided by 10 to find 8 divided by 20? So I want you to think about this problem before we continue the problems that are coming up. Because the 8 divided by 10 would mean 8 would become 10 times smaller. But what about 8 divided by 20? Okay, so what is 6 divided by 30? I'm going to show you this on my board, and then I'll show you what's on the screen. So if I have 6 divided by 30, well, I know 30 is made up of a 10 and a 3. So what I'm really doing is 6 divided by 10, and then my answer divided by 3. So let's first do 6 divided by 10. Technically, right now, the decimal is here. If I'm dividing by 10, the decimal will go there. So my new answer will be 0.6. 6 divided by 10 is 0.6. And then I also have to divide 0.6 divided by 3. So I know that 3, sorry, let me move this over 1 second. So that's not so neat, but I'll do it over here. 3 into 0.6. 3 goes into 0 0 times. I have a decimal there now because I have 0 divided by 3, right? So now I'm onto my tenths. So there's no ones. 3 into 6 is twice, and that's my answer, 0.2. So I'll show you here with a place value chart. It might be easier for you to understand it that way. So it's showing us first with the chips. If I have 6 ones divided by 10, I have 6 tenths, right? Then if I have 6 tenths divided by 3, I have 2 tenths, right? So technically 6 divided by 30 is first 6 divided by 10, then divided by 3. So if you look over here, this is basically overall what we're doing, okay? In the other method, they first divide by the 3 and then divide by the 10, which works too. So first I did 6 divided by 3 is 2, and then divide that by 10 is 2 tenths. I prefer the first way, but they both work. Okay, 0.6 divided by 30, so we're dividing by 10, then dividing by 3. 0.6 divided by 10 becomes 0.06, right? Move the decimal place over, it gets 10 times smaller. Then we're dividing 0.06 by 3. So it becomes 0.02. Now it's going to show you the next method, which is first dividing by 3 and then dividing by 10, which works also. You may prefer that, and that's fine. Now I have 0.06 divided by 30. If it becomes 10 times smaller, it's 0.06. 10 times smaller would be 0.006. They swapped up methods this time. Oh, they didn't show the second method. But I'll show you the second method myself. Second. Erasing my board. Okay. So if I have 0.06 divided by 30, this is the same thing as doing divided by 10, then divided by 3. So 0.06 divided by 10 becomes 0.006, then 0.006 divided by 3 is 0.002. Okay, so that's exactly what they're showing us here, 0.002. What is 60 divided by 100? So it's getting 10 times smaller, 10 times smaller, right? So we're dividing by 100. So right now the decimal in this number is 60.0, right? Divided by 10, divided by 10, the answer will be 0.6. So watch, right? It's jumping divided by 10, divided by 10. Oh, sorry, I didn't see they gave us a new one. So 60 divided by 100 divided by 10 would be 6 divided by 10 is 0.6. That's the answer. The next one, what if I have 6 divided by 100? Right? It's getting 100 times smaller. Divided by 10. 6 divided by 10 is 6 tenths. Divided by 10 again is 6 hundredths. So there is 6 hundredths. So if I have 0.6 divided by 100, so it's divided by 10, divided by 10. So it's 0.006, right? 6 tenths divided by 10, 6 hundredths, 0.006. 24 divided by 100, 24 divided by 100. So both numbers divided by 10, well, it's divided by 100. So divided by 10, divided by 10, 0.24. Now, if you need to make yourself a place value chart with every single problem, that's fine. I will upload a place value chart to help you solve these problems. 0.24 divided by 100. So divided by 10, divided by 10. Oh, sorry, I read that wrong. So what is 4.2 divided by 100? 4.2, right? Divided by 10, divided by 10. So it's 0 and 42 thousandths. I'll do that one on my board. Let me erase it. Sorry, I'm shaking the phone. Okay. So 4.2 divided by 100, which is the same thing as divided by 10 divided by 10. 4.2 once, twice, right? It got divided by 10 twice. So the new answer is 0.042. Sorry, I should have. Okay, which is what we're gonna see on our screen. There we go. Okay, so now it's divided by 1,000, which is divided by 10, divided by 10, divided by 10. So 3 becomes divided by 10, divided by 10, divided by 10. 300. It was 300 divided by 1,000. It was 3/10. Okay, so it continues 30. You move it over 3 decimal places, 1, 2, 3. 0.03. Remember, for 30, the decimal place is when you have a whole number, technically the imaginary decimal place is behind the whole number. So 30, the decimal place is here, right? So if I'm dividing it by 1,000, I'm going over once, twice, 3 times. That's my new answer. 0.030, which is the same thing as 0.0300, right? It's still 3/100ths. In both cases, they're in the same place value. Sorry. Okay. 3 divided by 1,000. So you move over 3 decimal places. 1, 2, 3. Okay, so I think you're getting the idea. I'm going to go a little more quickly. 24 divided by 1,000, 24.0. So divided by 10, divided by 10, divided by 10. Okay, now this one is similar to what we were doing before. You're dividing by 100 and then you're dividing by 3. 60 divided by 100, 60 is 60.0. Divide by 10, divide by 10, right, is 0.6. Then divide by 3 is 0.2. Okay? Let's skip this. This is the same idea, just they divided by 3 first and then divided by 100. Okay, we're going to go to a harder problem. Of course, you can stop this and look at it if you need to. I just want to get to something a little harder. We'll do this one. So 600 divided by 3,000 is 600 divided by 1,000 divided by 3. 600 divided by 1,000, I'm moving over 3 decimal places. So if I have 600.0, 3 decimal places, if the decimal's there, I'm going to go 1, 2, 3. It's 0.6. 0.6 divided by 3, 0.2. We're going to skip this method. I think it's better if you do the other method. This also, you can stop my video We'll do this one and the next two, and then we'll be done. 6 divided by 3,000, so it's 6.0. So divided by 1,000 is 1, 2, 3 is 0.006. 0.006 divided by 3 is 0.002. They did the opposite method again. They like to mix you guys up, but I'll show you on my screen. So 6 divided by 3,000 it's the same thing as divided by 1,000, and then again divided by 3. This marker is really thick, hard to erase. Okay. So 6 divided by 1,000, if it's 6, then 1, 2, 3 is 0.06. Then 0.06 divided by 3 is 0.002, which is what you see on the screen. Okay, so I specifically put some harder ones on this page to do together. I'm actually going to put these in a different video. I think watching these two alone will help understand almost all the problems. Okay, so I'm going to stop this video. See you in the next one.